Hey, 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 it is 5:30. Thank you so much for joining Happy Hour with Dr. Lisa. I am your host. I am Dr. Lisa. As always, I could not wait to talk to you all. Plus, I have some new information. So, today we are going to finish up Growing Up in Psychology, Part 3, and then I'm going to go straight into blog 30. We are already on blog 30. Hey, blog 30 is dedicated to all of you who answered a question for me that I asked on a public website. So I am going to get to that in just 1 second. I do want to remind you that if you have questions, you can absolutely contact me at area code 765-205-1959, or you can email me at kidscansee@gmail.com. One of the easier ways to contact me is right on social media. I am on all platforms except Snapchat. I do not do Snapchat. But other than that, you can contact me on any of those websites. I do appreciate you being here today. Let me tell you all some stuff that's been happening to me. Sometimes I get writer's block, so I didn't do the blog last weekend. And that's because I had an idea of what I wanted to discuss, but I didn't develop it. And if I don't develop it properly, then I don't write about it. However, over time, I've been able to kind of figure out how I wanted to write about it. And so I'll be doing that this Friday. So it made me think, I'm starting to have a little bit of writer's block. A part of it is because I have too many ideas. The other part is because I have a lot of information to share. So it's kind of getting scrambled. And then I thought of something, I'm going to develop it, and I'm actually going to write about it this Friday. So I'll release another blog this Friday. But here's what's happening to me. It's so funny. I have to keep laughing. So, every time I think, okay, I have so many ideas, I want to write them out. I want to talk to you all about them, and hopefully you'll talk to me as well. But then I think maybe I should end, kind of talking about this stuff because um, just out of my own boredom wanting to do something else. But then you guys keep me motivated because you'll ask me questions and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to do this for them and blah, 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 blah for all the kids. Well, here's what's been happening to me. So let me go back for a second. That train of thought or that line of thinking only happened one other time, and this past weekend. So twice since I started this podcast. Well, here's what's interesting. Each time I get that kind of thinking, what happens to me is something will happen. I'll meet somebody who could either see a ghost or I'll get inspiration from somewhere. Okay, so that was a couple of months ago. Fast forward to this past weekend. So recently, I mentioned last week that I've been meeting or I met someone who could see ghosts. Remember, I said it was a surprise. I didn't know. This person didn't even know what a website was, believe it or not. And definitely didn't know I had a website because I was a stranger to this person. All right. So most recently, I kid you not, I'm just completely innocent in this stuff. So let me tell you about me. I'm innocent in this stuff. I don't go around talking about I have a podcast, blah, 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 blah. I'm just not one of those types. I'm very low key. Um, and especially at work or somewhere where I have to be public, I'm pretty low key. Other people will have to read about me to know about this stuff. And so out of the blue, and I didn't expect it because we were not talking about this stuff. There was a parent who said to me, all of my kids can see ghosts. And I don't even know where it came from. This person does not know me. And I thought, huh. And I started to smile internally and I said, really? And this parent said, yes. And I'm getting concerned. And I said, oh, okay. So I want you to know I am having all of these recent experiences, and they are coming to me almost every day. So I feel like I am back 15 years ago. And honestly, this started with me again about a week ago. And I am new to these individuals. You know, they don't know me. You know, they just know I'm a psychologist, but they don't know anything. So it's kind of like I was put in this place to meet these individuals. So listen, I wasn't going to write up these stories that I'm hearing, but I think I am. One in particular, I have to get permission, and I'm actually going to get permission to write it up because it's good. It's good. So once I have that, I'll talk about it. But remember, everything is confidential. And so these are more recent experiences. So I have to safeguard them. So I definitely won't tell you guys if they're male or female this time or anything. Um, so yeah, so look for those in the blog probably next week because I have to organize my thoughts. So I'm meeting all these random people who are telling me their experiences as specifically someone told me there was a ghost of a little girl down the hallway and I was blown away like I got to write this stuff up. It's like my audience is not going to believe that this stuff is happening to me, but actually it is again. So I'm going to leave you with that cliffhanger and I'm going to start writing that stuff up. So look forward next week, not this week. I have something else to tell you this week in the blog that's personal to me. So, hey, I see my BFF. Hey, girl, hey. Okay, so to end the blog 29, growing up in psychology, after all that stuff happened to me, I graduated. I knew that I wasn't going to live in Chicago for the rest of my life. For as much as I love Chicago, I do not like the winter, which is interesting because I grew up in Cleveland and the winters are just as bad. And so is the lake effect. But I'm grown. I'm not a kid. And I hate snow. And I live in Illinois. So how about that? So I try to escape winter, but I can't. So at that point, I moved from Chicago on down to Central Illinois and worked for a university. And it was a great experience. And I learned a whole lot. So over time, you'll learn that's when I started to train with adults. And that's where I had all of the adult experiences because remember, I've only been trained with kids. And so that was a good experience. But, we're going to move on from growing up in psychology because now you have an idea of, who I am in psychology and how a lot of these experiences shape me into the professional that I am who can deal with nebulous children. If you don't know what I mean by nebulous children, you have to read the blog. Read the blog. Blog 30. I asked a question on Quora. I have a Quora webpage, Quora. So it's Kids Can See Ghosts, Can You? Quora.com. So I asked this question just out in the public, just to see if anybody would respond. So this was kind of my little research study too. And I wanted to talk to you all about this question because if you have not looked at the Quora page at all, you should, because this question has been answered repeatedly by people. And I appreciate all of them for answering the question because it does take a sense of bravery in order to stick yourself out in the public like this. So what I don't do when people tell me their experiences. I don't ever put your names. You guys are putting your names, or at least your fake names, on the page. I don't do that. So when it goes on my blog, I do not put your information on my blog. So at the time, I wrote this in September. It looks like September 19th. This question exposed me to a lot of wonderful people. Thank you for sharing your stories. What I noticed is that a lot of these stories mimic what kids have told me over the years. Sometimes when I read your answers, it helps me to flash back to some of the things that kids have told me, and then I can write it, because then I'll go, oh, kids have told me about this tree, or kids have told me about dark angels. So at the time that I wrote this blog, this first person answered the question and it had 136 views, right? You should see it now. That was several months ago. So it has a lot more views now. And I really don't want to read the blog to you, so I'm going to try to summarize it. When you have the opportunity, you can read on your own verbatim what these people replied with. And so, excuse me, this person, I get a lot of people who actually can see ghosts. Then there are people who know people who can see ghosts. And then a lot of people are their children see ghosts. And then you get people on here answering who profess to be psychics. And then you get mediums. And so people can answer these questions any way that they want to. And I do respond to everybody as best as I can. So this person said children can see ghosts, period. Adults can't see. Sometimes if children look in a corner, there is a ghost there. And actually, children have told me that as well. And this person said, but what they're looking at is a demon. Children have told me that as well. This person said, if you want to get rid of demons, you have to say, Spirit, in God's name, I order you out. How many times have I said that? I mean, like, raise your hand if you've heard me say that a million times, because I have. Because I'll tell you, that's what actually worked when I worked with these kids. So this person went on to say, to discuss how demons impersonate relatives they deceive. So remember, I mentioned that, be careful with regard to when you see demons, or if you see your relatives. Remember, I mentioned that. So this person is saying they do things like impersonating your relatives to deceive you. They hide car keys. They get rid of your car keys. They cause more trouble. Demons can possess a person. How many times have I said that? They can invite a league of demons. Stop right there. Remember child A. Child A said that. Remember when I was still in building 1 and they were renovating building 2? Those of you who've read about child A understand this. In building 2, child A and I were looking out the window, and remember, I was really dramatic last year, and I said, this kid was in the window going, oh my God, Dr. Lisa, you can't go in that building. You can't go in that building. There's a demon in that building on the staircase. Oh my God. Oh my God. There's 2, there's 3, there's a whole lot of them. They're just bringing a whole bunch of demons in that building, and you can't go in that building. Remember that conversation? That's what this person is talking about. And this person also said they have supernatural abilities. They can take over your mind and your body. They can cause you to attack people. Remember, I mentioned that some of the kids that I work with, just a few of them, not all of them, just a few of them, would cause physical altercations. Remember that? And they would tell me that they're the dark angels that they see would tell them to go and fight. Remember that? So that's what this person is talking about. And they also said there are angels. They can appear to you to forewarn you of things. Some of you have written to me about your experiences with God's angels, warning you of things. I talked about an angel that I believe that was came to me in human form, the trash can. Some of you might remember that in my blog. Most recently, and I got to write this down as we talk, I was told from someone who could see my angels that I need to talk about Angel 3, which you guys, I think I brought this up last week. You know, I don't talk about angel number 3, but I do know there are 3. So there's no way that this person could know because I don't talk about this stuff at work. I've been talking about it recently, periodically, because people have been bringing it up to me. But I do not really ever talk about angel number 3. But I will in the blog because I was told I needed to. So I do know that if we ask for protection, God's angels do protect us, right? And so this person is saying that they also said it's the angel's job. It's not an angel's job you're not supposed to worship an angel. Their job is to protect us. And I said this before, Satan was Lucifer. Lucifer was an archangel. He was the most beautiful archangel in heaven. One day, Lucifer wanted to be equal to God. He convinced angels to go along with him. He got cast down to earth with the other demons. They became fallen angels. That's what somebody wrote. Some of this stuff, remember, I've already talked about. Okay, I'll talk about the new angel. That's the stuff that I talk about, this person said. And remember, to all of you who keep asking about Ouija boards and all that stuff, you have to always remember, and I say this periodically throughout the blog, that demons are not your friends. They are fallen angels. They do not like humans, and all they want to do is harm us. So you guys leave those dark angels alone. And that's what this woman, or let me see, I believe this was female, said. So that was one of my favorite responses to my question. So another person said, my daughter could see ghosts and spirits. In my family, my mom, myself, and some of my siblings have the gift of seeing ghosts as children. So I mentioned to you all that a lot of the kids that I've worked with and their parents, remember I call them nebulous parents, so their parents could actually see ghosts. So that's why I coined the term nebulous parents. And they would always tell me that they were able to see ghosts since they were little kids. So I've been talking about that. And that's what this person, and this is not the only person who wrote the answer to this question being, yes, I've been seeing them and my kids can see them. So interesting. Okay. Then I get responses from people who share their fears about seeing ghosts. They are sometimes feel afraid because they can see ghosts. And so I will kind of paraphrase this one a little more closely. So this person responded, yes, I still do see ghosts, and I was a ghost. So I'm not sure what that means, but that's what the person said. I was afraid to be alone as a child. I would suggest that if children come to you with this complaint, just do your best to believe them and make it valid in their minds. I talk about that too. Don't discount it and do your best to make them feel safe. That can do wonders on its own. I love when you can see ghosts, when you give me suggestions. I'm always open to suggestions. There's recently when someone talked about seeing the ghost of a girl down the hallway, I was kind of like, crap, I don't want to go down the hallway. I mean, just to be honest with you, because I was like, here we go again. I just don't. Like, I had to fight myself to just go down the hallway. Like, it gets that real for me. And so I have to catch myself because I'm not perfect. And so these kind of reminders to just believe in, what I'm hearing, and, you know, speak in a calm voice. And, this person said they spent years just thinking that they were seeing and hearing things. And that's what someone said to me recently, that one of their kids is hearing things and talking to something, you know. And so this person is saying that was me. Thought I was just seeing and hearing things. And this person's family was in the middle of, the parents were in the middle of a divorce, and so the family didn't really have time for this person. And so, not believing that this person as a child could see ghosts terrified this kid. And remember, I talk about how fearful these kids can be. And so this person said it did a number on their self-esteem, and they were frightened all the time. And that's the kind of stories that I hear from these kids. And that response, this person said, will result in a neurotic child who is terrified to live life. And that's no good. And I agree. So when they get to that point, that's when they start, or their parents start seeking psychological treatment, because they don't understand, what's happening to their kid. And the whole time, the kid is like, I'm telling you, I can see and hear something. I'm completely sane, but I see and hear something, and it's in the corner, and it's scaring me, and I don't know what to do to stop it. So unfortunately for this person, what happened was a lot of psychological treatment, because this person actually considered him or herself neurotic at that point. To conclude, there are many children who see spirits. It's natural and wears off after the other physical presences on earth let them know how far they are, when it's not really true. Not all children will continue to see spirits. It can take up to 8 years sometimes to stop. They are fresh from the spirit realm and usually keep seeing it for a certain amount of time until they believe the physical people around them. I sometimes wonder, if people gave the right support, what would happen. All children see it, and the ages vary as to when it stops. For some reason, it never comes to an end. So this person shared that they still see ghosts as an adult. And some of the stuff I like this. Some of the stuff I didn't understand in this last comment, just because, remember, I don't see ghosts, I don't tap into the spiritual realm, with the exception of, my own religious beliefs. However, some things I don't understand, for example, how you've been a spirit. Okay. But I do believe in people. And if this person believes that, then there's no judgment on our ends, right? Because that's what we're learning. Um, I do think that children are divine, and they are the closest physical beings to God, because they just, according to this person, left heaven. So these kids, some of them continue to have the veil off of their eyes, and some of them don't. This person is saying something that I said. When they don't have the veil on anymore, it's because society helps to remove that, right? How many times, if a kid tells you they see something, will you say you don't see anything? There's nothing in the corner. That kind of stuff. Yeah. So we've talked about that. Let's see. This next one, at the time that I wrote it, had 404 views. This was a female who said, when my son was 2 or 3, he came into my room countless nights, rubbing his eyes and asking me if he could sleep with me. Yep. When I said, sure, climb in, he would climb in and snuggle up against me, and I asked him if he had a bad dream, and he said, no. The little boy in the closet just wants to keep playing, and I'm too tired. I asked him, what little boy? And he told me he would tell me tomorrow, because he was too tired and he drifted off to sleep. Curious, I got up and went into his room and saw nothing out of place, and even checked the whole house, as I was a bit weirded out by what he said. I'd be weirded out too. I'd be like, what little boy? Because we don't have another little boy in our house. So the next morning, this person was having breakfast with her son and asked him if he remembered what he said last night. And he asked what I mean. And I say, well, the little boy that wants to play when you want to sleep. And he says, oh, yeah, him. He just wants to play when I'm tired sometimes. And then I can't sleep because he always wants to play when it's dark out and you're sleeping too, mommy. And that was it. He shrugged it off like it was the most normal thing in the world. But every so often, we moved until we moved about 5 months later, he would complain about the little boy who came out of the closet and woke him up to play. She went on to say he's 22 now, and I keep meaning to ask him if he remembers any of the ghosts he saw when he was younger. This was only one incident of many when he was young. Little kids in horror movies are terrifying. Well, what's terrifying is probably the thought of these kids. Yep, that's what I was about to say. The thought of these kids seeing ghosts. You you probably can't imagine seeing a ghost. This person said, I can't imagine seeing a ghost. Me either. Yeah, me either. Kids have vivid imaginations. We all know that. Kids have imaginary friends. But I have to tell you guys, after I started working with these kids for so many years, I did not tolerate imaginary friends from my own kids because I was just learning probably way too much about this stuff, and it made me more, you know, what they were doing. Like if they were playing alone, my mom used to actually do that to me as well. And so I can write about that story too. I would watch my kids, and I have to tell you, they did not have imaginary friends. Okay, that's another blog right there. I did not. My kids did not have imaginary friends. For one thing, I didn't tolerate. I didn't tolerate. I don't tolerate anything because I know so much. I've always like really prayed over where I live and stuff like that. And it's because I've worked with this stuff for so long. Even kids that see very frightening things and dark angels, I didn't want that stuff in my house. So my house was always cleansed. And now you know why. It's because I hear so many stories like this, and I've been hearing them for 2 decades now. And apparently, I'm still going to hear them. So, there you go. So, that's why my kids didn't have imaginary friends. Um, and they actually just played with one another until they were old enough to, have social life outside of each other. Um, so the next one is kind of long. This next one will probably do half of it because you guys are gonna. It's so interesting though, but you guys are gonna end up falling asleep. So we'll try to do half today, and then the last comment is really long. So it helps if you guys will take the time, if you have the time, to read that last one first. Remember, it's blog 30 because it is really long. Okay, this person actually talked to me for a while about his experiences and told me he would come on the show and we could talk about this and his experiences. And I actually think he came on once, and I hope he comes back because he has a lot of experience with this stuff because of his child. And so I have a special place for him because he's a native Ohioan like me. So Ohio is always special to me, and it always will be. And so I always celebrate my Ohio people because why? It's home for me. And so this man said that he believed that his daughter could see ghosts when she was about 3 years old. This story is good. Oh, it's good. She has two great grandmothers who were supposedly psychic and spoke with deceased spirits. What have I mentioned to you guys about deceased spirits? Okay, this is going to get good. You don't play around with this stuff if you don't know what you're doing. Okay? I had this man moved out of his house when his daughter was about 2. And he said, I remember her telling me that she was having dreams of a big wolf sitting on top of her house, just looking around. Now, pause. Remember my story similar to that one? Not a wolf, but a dark angel sitting on top of a roof of a building. Remember that? That was a recent podcast and blog. And so it was a recurrent dream. Now, her mother worked with people who had lived in the neighborhood all their lives, and they told her that they were strange. There was strange supernatural events that took place in the neighborhood. This was located in North Ridgeville, Ohio, referred to as the swamps. I don't know where the swamps are, just so you know. I think he told me, though. Somewhere in central Ohio, I believe. Okay. While I still lived there one night, I had finished drinking something. And I sat my glass on the kitchen table, and I distinctly remember sitting it at least 2 feet from the edge of the table. I turned around to walk back downstairs to watch TV, and after taking a couple steps, I heard the glass shattering on the tile floor. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, now I added that. My daughter's mother had been at the counter a few feet away doing something. She said that she saw it. Woo-wee. I don't know about you guys, but I probably would have peed on my pants. On my floor, in my pants. How about that? She said there was no doubt that the glass slid off the edge of the table and off onto the floor all by itself, that I had already walked away from it. Anyway, back to my daughter. Her mother told me she was concerned that she heard my daughter at times, something like she was talking to somebody in her room. Then one day she called me terrified and crying. She told her mother that she was talking to 2 people who came from a cloud of black smoke. Remember my story about child A with the clouds and stuff? Yep. Okay. The black smoke in the air, and that they were telling her to do bad things. They were telling her not to mind her mother, to mess her room up, and to play in the street. She told me that around this time, lights in the house at night would turn off by themselves. I talked to my daughter about it in a nonchalant way. I brought it up like I had no real concern, but that I was just interested in who these people were. She told me their names were, you got to look at their names on my blog, because I'm not about to say them on my podcast. I asked her to describe them. What she described sounded like 2 young adults who were dressed in disco era clothes. I am not shitting you. Remember I wrote a blog about that? What is it with ghosts and disco clothes? Insert LOL. Okay. The boy ghost wore a shirt with a big collar and thick platform shoes. And the female wore a purple sparkly dress. At least she had good taste in clothes and colors. We like purple in my house. She had big puffy hair. I asked her why her mother never saw them. She said they did not like her, meaning her mother, and that they hid in the closet whenever her mother would come. I asked her why I never saw them. She said they told her that they were afraid of me. Go, Dad. I told him that too. I asked her where they came from. Across the street from her house, Behind the houses across the street was a forested area. Unless you had ever been back there, you would not know it. You would think that you were just seeing trees in the backyards of the houses. But the trees went on for about a mile in each direction, and there were a few deer trails, though there and nobody, he meant through there. Oh, I meant through there, and nobody ever really went back there because it was usually muddy. The only reason I had ever seen it was because of our cockatiel. I think that's a bird. Flew back there and I went back to try to find it. I had lived there for several years and had never seen what was back there until that time. My daughter was not even born yet. She had never been across the street and never saw what was behind those houses. She told me that the ghost came from two bumps in the ground back in those trees. You guys know what he's trying to say? Dead underground. At that time, my daughter had no concept of death or graves. I told my daughter that the ghosts had good reason to be afraid of me. That's right, because I knew how to make them go away forever. I told her that those ghosts were not allowed to be in her house ever again and that Jesus wanted them to go to him. My daughter never saw them again. She stopped having a dream about the wolf. One of her great 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 grandmothers was Indian. In Indian lore, the wolf laying on top of the house, watching all around, was a symbol of a protective spirit. Whew. You guys want me to stop? You want to talk about it? Oh, man. You see how some of these stories mimic some of the things that I'm sharing with you? So I'm not, guys, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just not. You know, all of the accounts are true that I'm telling you about. And what's interesting for me, and it's also validation for me, when I put questions out like this and people answer them, you should see me. You should see me. I'm like, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what the nebulous children tell me. This is what they've been telling me for years, this kind of stuff, and there are other people that have these experiences too. And I just get excited because I'm like telling their stories and asking questions, and then asking questions, they give me stuff like this. And it's so exciting. It's like a catharsis for me, if you will. Okay, so he said about 5 years ago, so he wrote this to me last year. So 5 years ago, 2016, my daughter and her mother moved to a town west of Toledo called White House, Toledo, Ohio. They moved to a condo development that had just been built. They both said that strange things happened there, and they've had neighbors who have said the same thing. Lights turn off and on, doors open and close, and things move around. A couple times my ex heard loud noises in the kitchen and found the drawer with all the silverware opened and all the silverware out on the floor. My daughter said that she saw shadows of things that weren't there. She was FaceTiming with a friend of hers in California who told her that she also saw one of those shadows on her telephone screen behind my daughter. Whew. My ex was dating some guy a couple years ago who told her that things like that happened when he spent the night. One morning, my ex told him she was going to take a shower. He asked her why because he said she had already done so. She swore she didn't. He said he heard the bathroom door close, the exhaust fan turn on, and the shower turned on. And then the door opened again. My ex claimed that she had never been out of the bed, and my daughter was with me at the time, and there was nobody else in there. My sister gave my daughter a doll made in the 1930s. I just looked at the camera like, ugh. It was of an Indian woman with a papoose. My sister bought it in Mexico. When my daughter took it to school for show and tell, the teacher got a very weird feeling about it and would not let her keep it in the classroom. She made her keep it out in the hallway. You already know I wrote a blog about dolls, guys. Okay. She made her keep it out in the hallway. At home, the doll would be put away somewhere, and the next day they would find it somewhere else. They were kind of spooked by it, so they put it in the box in their garage. It kept turning up inside the house again. Hey, and I have to tell you, I hear about that stuff with Ouija boards too. So keep this stuff in mind. These are people's real stories. So this doll kept turning up in the house again. And my ex verified that my daughter tried to bring it in the house a couple of times because they did not want it there anymore. Okay. She put it in her suitcase only to find at my house that it wasn't there. It was back at her house again. And so I told him, what? When he said that, he said, I kid you not. That thing kept showing up. And I said, mm-mm. After a lot of activity one day, my ex asked me to come and do something about it. I went there and took the doll out and we burned it. And that's what you have to do to Ouija boards as well. You have to burn them. That was a couple of months ago. Since then, they both say the atmosphere in the house has been much brighter, and there have been no events at all. My ex told me that the condo complex had been built on the site of a prison. We did a little research and found that the main prison building was right where their unit was. Not only that, but it was built on the site of the Battle of Fallen Timbers during the War of 1812. And not only that, but it was also the site of a small massacre. About a dozen Indian women and children. The massacre of about a dozen Indian women and children. Believe any of it or not, it is what it is. Well, I said I wasn't going to read that to all of you, but it was so good I just couldn't stop reading it. So that is one man's account of what happened in his life from the paranormal world. Man, that's a lot and it's deep. So now you get a snapshot of some of the feedback, comments, and questions that I actually get. And if you guys want to talk about these live with me, you can on Podbean. All you have to do is just let me know you want to come on live and I'll let you in. It gets really deep sometimes. So just imagine, you know, what I hear from people like this. And I take it seriously. These entities impact our kids. And like he said, they wanted his daughter to do negative things. So that's what I used to hear from the kids. Remember, it follows me to school. They tell me to go hit someone. They tell me to steal a car. And so that's the kind of story that I hear that would make me think, well, wait a minute, you know, what if there are more people who can do this? Or if we can't see ghosts, the rest of us can't see them. Maybe they're still behind certain people, making them want to use drugs or making them think that they have to become alcoholics. So a lot of stuff will go through my mind, over the years as it is right now when I hear stories like this. So that was a popular one. It actually still is. And if you want, I can try to contact him to see if he would actually come live on the air, because he had a significant amount of experience, with not only his children, but different stories, in his life. He told me some more, but he didn't share them publicly, so I'll keep them quiet. Yeah. So that was his story. The other one, right after the person wrote it, literally the next day I woke up, it was at 16.4 thousand views. Her comment was very popular. And I'll have to tell you, it's way beyond 16.4 at this point. So we will actually save that one because it's really long. So if you want to read, well, it's not as long as his, but hers is like kind of, you thought that other one was scary. This is kind of a little bit too. So there are more. I'm going to post some more responses to that question. Maybe I'll do it in the next 3 weeks. So whatever you guys want me to talk about, I'm flexible with that. As long as we get it out there. So I welcome all comments to individuals who share their stories, but make sure we're nice to them, guys. We don't want them to feel like we're judging them or we're being mean to them. I've seen some people get really ugly toward people like this, and I don't want them to feel that way. You have a platform over here with Dr. Lisa to talk about your experiences with your kids who can see ghosts or even your experiences. So we are going to end it there. Thank you so much for joining me. Please contact me if you need to talk about this stuff. And I will see you all next Wednesday. I am doing this podcast now at about 5:30 because I can't make the 5 o'clock deadline anymore. I don't get off work until later now. So 5:30. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me. All right. You guys have a good night. Bye-bye. You gotta feel the music.